I can just upload something, huh?
Yeah, take your time.
Let's see, I should get back here a little bit, I guess, to upload a picture, I guess. Huh?
But you don't have to.
Okay, well, fumbled enough here, I guess. I'll just keep a good thing going.
If you're worried about making it worse, then leave well enough alone.
Okay.
Jim, we're on the air. Let's go.
Yes, and my intro stuff is playing, but I can't hear it. Oh, well, what the heck, we can add that in post. Hey, everybody, welcome once again, another action-packed, side-splitting, laugh-a-minute, blah, 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 blah episode, Side Project Live.
My goodness.
You know, and I've been using it in all the promos, but I've totally forgot to introduce the new name for our fans. Welcome, Projectiles. I don't know. Maybe not. We'll work with it. Hey, welcome, Projectiles, to another action-packed, side-splitting, laugh-a-minute episode, Side Project Live. Once again, Morris, Illinois, Jim Goebel.
Hi there, once again, in Lockport, Illinois, Eric Ferguson.
And how goest thou?
Splendid. A little warm. I don't have the air conditioner doesn't blow into the basement because generally it's cool enough, but it is so stinking humid this morning. It's really uncomfortable down here.
Don't get me started on air conditioning. I have none. And I'm broadcasting from the second floor of the side project tower, too, so so that's not a very comfortable situation. I do have a window open, but that doesn't really do you much good if there's no wind blowing. And
right, well, I got the fan down here, but the fan makes so much noise I can't use it while we're doing the program, so.
Yeah, and I've got that situation, too. Here, let me demonstrate. Okay, well, I guess it would demonstrate if the thing was plugged in, but
never mind.
Never mind. What's a little discomfort among friends, I guess. But so yeah, there's first of all, there's been some extremely good news and interesting news on the Libertarian Party ballot access front. First of all, we have been allowed on the ballot. Yes. We've been allowed on the ballot because, God forbid, we should let people vote for whoever they want. Oh.
They're giving us permission to participate.
Yes. Oh. And I'm kind of curious about what happened because we had like 44,000 signatures, something like that, and it got whittled down to like 29,000. And apparently one of the paid petitioners was also petitioning for the Democrat Party, and that was why the bulk of those got dismissed. And I've been having some talks with the political director of the state LP, and he's looking at some ideas on how to change the situation for the next time around. Excuse me, I'm like full of belches today.
That's a direct violation of the rules. You can't petition for more than one party. So if you do that, someone gets the boot, and we know it's not going to be the Democrats.
Oh, heck yeah! But I don't know. It wouldn't be so bad if the rules weren't as stringent as they are. But I mean, that's just the big thing. But I mean, we still got in. And that's a good thing, but they were fighting tooth and nail, and the thing that really pisses me off is the only newspaper in Chicago that's been reporting this has been the Chicago Sun-Times. And they've been doing story after story after story, and I've actually gone on Twitter and thanked the couple of guys that have been following these stories. And unfortunately, I don't have their Twitter handles available right in a second. Otherwise, I'd say go do it too. I'll put it in the show notes once I find them. But if you've been reading the stories, a couple of the petitioners and a couple of the petitionees have actually been getting harassed by private investigators and these private investigators are with the firm. I can't remember the Morrison Security firm, which is out of Alsip. And the guy who owns this private security firm or private investigation firm, is a Republican chairman for the area. Go figure. And and these they were intimidating people with. They weren't intimidating with them with guns, but they had their guns and they were totally visible, and they were just the way that they were looking, I guess, were intimidating them. And this is going to start becoming a big story. And I think Pat Quinn actually on his campaign site has actually called for an investigation. You know what that means? It's going to show up on a Pat Quinn ad in about a week.
Yeah, there you go.
That's exactly what's going to happen. So, your choices in this election are a guy who's involved in a hiring scandal and taking the state of Illinois into the tank, or a guy whose, cohorts are intimidating people who signed legitimate petitions. Hey, but you have to vote for the lesser of two evils. You can't vote for the one that's 99% evil. You have to vote for the one that's 98% evil.
Correct.
Anyway, so with all of that said, while we were successful in our ballot access issues, we do have a special guest on with us, Scott Summers from the Illinois Green Party. Welcome aboard, Scott.
Good morning.
So tell us a little bit. First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, your involvement with the party, and I don't know, any cookie recipes you have.
Well, no cookies. I've been associated with the Green Party on and off over the years, going back at least 10 years. In fact, I was the U.S. senatorial nominee in 2004 against some state senator with a funny-sounding name. But in any event, I was and still am, the gubernatorial candidate this year for the Green Party, with a slate of 7 others statewide, a total of 7 of us statewide, and have been enduring the same ballot access issues as you folks have.
Now, so tell us a little bit about the Green Party. For those who are not knowledgeable about what the Green Party is, what they stand for, core beliefs, that sort of thing. We are primarily a libertarian-oriented show here, but this is an issue that the entire population of Illinois is getting screwed over on, so we thought it was important to have you on. So tell us a little bit about the Green Party.
Well, it's an international movement, and it has its roots in Europe going back into the 1980s. Here in Illinois, we've been active since the late 1990s, so it's an evolving concept here.
Mm-hmm.
We have 10 key values. Let me just run those down for you. Well, let's see. I'll do it this way. There are 4 pillars, we call them, 4 principal parts of the 10 key values. And those 4 are grassroots democracy, social justice and equal opportunity, ecological wisdom, and nonviolence. And then the other remaining values are decentralization, community-based economics and economic justice, feminism and gender equity, respect for diversity, global and personal responsibility, and future focus and sustainability.
Okay, one thing you said there actually piqued my interest. Decentralization. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, that can be centralization of wealth and power, and to a certain extent, to maybe a large extent, that contributes to social and economic injustice and militarization and environmental destruction. So, actually, in terms of our economy as well, I'll discuss that in a little bit. But we hope to restructure social and political and economic institutions away from a system which mostly benefits the powerful, and to a democratic and less bureaucratic sort of a system. So, to a certain extent, we have common cause there. Decision making, I think, should remain at a grassroots level. We are way too top heavy in that respect right now in Illinois and the nation.
Mhm. Yeah, that was something we would definitely agree with. There's way too much power in Washington, and we would agree with you on a lot of about the issue of wealth. We don't think. I mean, obviously, we don't. You probably disagree on details, but we do believe that there is way too much money in politics. We do believe that the wealthy have too much influence in the political system. I believe, however, that I would imagine probably our ways of dealing with it would be different. I mean, I think pretty much everybody agrees. Well, pretty much. I mean, there are wackos out there that believe in peace and prosperity for all. It's just the road to get to that is where most people would differ.
Well, I would agree.
So, okay, so that having been said, I don't know how much you know about the Libertarian Party, but for the most part, the Libertarian philosophy is based on the non-aggression principle, and that's basically that nobody has the right to force anyone to do their bidding through the use of force or fraud. Obviously, you can't be 100% dogmatic about it, because if you are, then you go 100% into anarchy. The very core, we believe that the government should provide to defend the rights of the individual. Courts, cops, and roads. But once again, there are problems with all of that too. But that's under the under the way things are running now, at the very least. But that having been said, all of this. So first of all, let's go to the start here. Now, since you guys are also a third party, I'm assuming that you had to start at about the same time we did, which was what, March, getting signatures, March or April?
March, after the established parties had their primaries. Okay.
So where did you guys go? One thing before we continue here. I just want to inform our people. You can give us a call on our Google Voice line, 815-200-4912. If you give us a call, leave a voicemail. We'll address it on the next episode. You can tweet us at TheSideProject2 on Twitter. Our email is TheSideProject2@gmail. If you post about us, please use the hashtag TSPLive, but be careful, because I just found out there's a country western band using the same hashtag, but we had it first. Our website is tsplive.com. That's where you can go for our show archives. For those of you listening on Tuieville, you can hear us live every Saturday at 9 a.m. on radiofubar.com. For people listening on Radio Fubar, you can hear the replay of the show at tuieville.com. That's TOUHYVILLE.com every Sunday at noon. Circle us on Google+, friend us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube for the video stream. We're on your TuneIn Radio on your smartphone, tablet, or Roku box. Just search for Radio Fubar. We're in the iTunes store, and if you please leave us reviews on the iTunes store. It helps people find our show a lot easier. And we're also on the Stitcher app on your smartphone. And
we accept donations.
What's that?
And we accept donations.
And we accept donations. Oh, and we're going to have some good news starting is it the next episode or the one after?
Send us car parts, lawn ornaments, underwear. I don't get it. Mail stuff.
Will podcast for food. But okay, just wanted to get all of that out of the way. And we also have the Q&A app open on the Google Hangout as well. And we got a comment from Mike Bowler. Congratulations, guys. Thank you very much. But it was really hard work, and wow, the GOP has been really, really nasty to us, but to be expected. So, at any rate, to continue.
Yes, let's hear Scott's story.
Yes. So how many signatures did you guys end up getting before the end of the petitioning period?
Just short of 30,000, and as you know, perhaps your listeners know as well, the statute requires 25,000 good signatures. The Democrats challenged our signatures in sufficient number to disqualify signatures, enough signatures to drop us below the 25,000 threshold. And it was for that reason yesterday the State Board of Elections removed us from the ballot.
So how many signatures did the? I'm assuming it was the Democrat Party that was challenging you, correct?
It was most definitely Karen Yarborough, the Cook County Recorder of Deeds, was the objector.
Right. I remember reading about that. And how many signatures did they challenge?
They challenged about 12,000, I believe. I'm just recalling the rough numbers.
That's
roughly
fine.
12,000, and 7,000 were upheld, so that got us to 23,000, which is, of course, below the threshold.
Yeah, and I recall when I was down in Springfield defending our for the one day I was down there defending the signatures. The election judge I was with was saying that. Okay, DuPage libertarians are in on the show. I can see you, and no, that is not a Twilight cup I am drinking out of. It is Divergent, and the only reason I'm drinking out of this cup is because it's large and it holds 32 ounces of iced tea. So, okay. At any rate, so yeah, because when I was down there, the election judge I was sitting with, I got along with him really, really great, and we were so much alike. We were making Monty Python and Mystery Science Theater jokes to each other the whole time. We would start a comment, and the other one would know what the other one was talking about. We would finish them off. So that was That was very interesting. But the election judge said several times, like, this is just a waste of time, and they were not just challenging, they were not, in our case, they were not just making legitimate challenges, but they were also pretty much throwing everything at the wall and seeing what would stick. And would that seem to be what happened with you guys as well?
Well, that's been my personal experience in the past, just as you described it. We did not go through the binder check this particular time. We took a different avenue altogether and filed a federal lawsuit asserting that the ballot access requirements taken together were an undue imposition on our First and 14th Amendment constitutional rights.
Now, I'm going to throw out a hard question here for you, okay? So I probably should have warned you about this, but this is something that's been on my mind, and I don't really have a very good memory. So several years ago, the Libertarian Party of Illinois filed a lawsuit against the ballot access restrictions here in Illinois, and they invited the Green Party and the Constitution Party to join along with us. Why? Do you know any of the circumstances why the Green Party declined to join us on that particular lawsuit? Which, by the way, I might add, has been tied up in the courts for 3 years now, and. Any rate, so why do you have any insight onto that at all?
Absolutely not. I had stopped out of the Green Party after the 2010 election and resumed this year. So the 4-year interlude, I have no particular institutional knowledge.
Well, that's too bad.
Yeah, because we could really, because the thing is that we're all really in the same boat here, and as I said before, this is not an issue that really, I mean, it concerns the political system here in the state, but in the larger scheme of things, it affects the entire state. And when I have described to the few people that I got signatures for, by the way, 4 of my signatures got thrown out. They were all friends and family, and one was my boss.
Well, that's the game they play. Our Secretary of State candidate had his signature challenged, and our gubernatorial candidate 4 years ago, Rich Whitney, had his signature challenged.
I remember that name. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I remember.
That's the game they play.
Yeah, it's always fun when you have your own signature thrown up.
Well, it's meant to be a bit of a barb, I think. I guess barb is a polite word.
The interesting thing is that the head of the DuPage County Libertarian Party, who is actually watching us right now, he was one of the bigger petition getters or signature getters in the state, like some 1,100 signatures, and they were saying that he doesn't live where he lives. They were saying he doesn't live in the house he lives in, trying to get all of his 1,100 signatures thrown out. Yet, he's like, I've been only paying mortgage on this place for 7 years, and they're all stooping to the lowest of the low. Now, the one thing, since you said that you didn't go through the book challenge, it would have been interesting because I would have loved to have known if you guys had Republicans actually helping you out in the challenge, because we definitely had Democrats helping us out in the challenge down in Springfield, which really shows you the how corrupt the system is, and really it shows you how wrong-headed the whole thinking is in the two establishment parties. And by the way, I'm not calling them the two major parties anymore. The two establishment parties, I think, is more accurate because because they're established and they keep themselves established. But the
power parties.
The power parties. That's actually a very good way of saying it. The
power parties.
what was I going to say? Train of thought boarding at the station. But I recall a couple of years ago, the Libertarians actually got on the ballot, and the Senate candidates. It was who was it? It was Alexei Giannoulias and
Mark Kirk.
Mark Kirk, thank you. They were setting up a series of debates, but the Libertarian candidate was stronger on pro-life issues than the Republican candidate was. Now, the whole pro-life, pro-choice thing is one of a couple of areas in the Libertarian Party that we don't have a set platform plank on because they think it's something that, well, honestly, I don't know how to explain it, but and so Giannoulias was said that he would not do a debate with Kirk unless the Libertarian candidate was allowed in. And you could pretty much understand why he wanted that.
Sure.
Busy year-round, pretty much.
Whoa, what am I hearing there? I heard something about busy year-round.
I have no idea.
Okay, now what's so I'm hearing some echo feedback here. I mean, you really got to be prepared for this, especially in.
You're playing yourself back there. What's going on?
Yeah, how is that happening? Can you go and explain a little bit about some of the challenges we faced? I know we've covered some of this before. Okay, but hold on a second. This is weird.
Hang on, mute Scott.
The head of the political whatever it was.
Keep playing it back.
Political division director.
Political division director could go into a little more detail on that for us. Oh, this is last week's show. How is this
playing?
Well,
sure. I mean, there's a number
playing
of
on someone's
challenges
YouTube.
we face because we're not.
Yeah, I don't have YouTube
major party.
open. Hey, Scott, do you have YouTube open or something?
I do not.
We have.
Okay, hold on a second.
First of all, first and foremost, is there is a lot of election law and a lot of political law in Illinois. That
okay, you know, there's an easy way to find this out.
Business. We are not
hang with us just a moment here. Oh, good morning.
Which is
That's nice and loud.
Hold on a second.
So, the two major parties.
Yeah, it's coming from you, Jim.
Business, according to.
There it is. Okay.
Okay, where is it coming from on mine?
But they've put it all into law, and then that law affects us indirectly now as.
This
is last week's show.
Yeah, you got a Hangout page open or something. It's playing.
And then we have a whole set of rules we're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, I got it.
But that's just one aspect of the challenges we face.
I'll
touch real quickly on one, and that is the public perception that. If you want to win, you have to be a Democrat.
This is weird.
Republican. We have a lot of people who are libertarian who would rather run as a Democrat.
Is it on your notebook?
And if you're running for local office, that can be important in terms of getting support because.
On the notebook.
Oh yeah, that was on my notebook.
There it is.
Okay, that's what the problem was. Why I wasn't hearing our theme music earlier because I didn't have the theme music loaded up. God. Okay.
Right.
Well. All right. Well, that's solved. Wow. Okay.
That's
sorry about that, folks. Hey, this is live. Okay. This is what happens live. So.
That's
all right. What the hell were we talking about? You remember, Scott?
Yeah, I think you were talking about Giannoulias and Kirk. And,
yeah. Right. Yeah. What happened there was that the. Yeah, they were Giannoulias was refusing to do the debates unless the Libertarian candidate, who was it? I'm drawing a blank. I want to think it was either, I think it was Michael Labno, I believe it was in the debates because he was pro-life, whereas Mark Kirk is pro-choice, and that's all a bunch of baloney there, and we all understand why they were doing that.
A thing too that I think maybe some of the listeners may have not taken away from these discussions the last couple of weeks is, we've talked about what a big waste of time and money and effort it is, but we're only concerned with maybe only our party's access. Remember that there's other parties run, so this happens. If you take all that time of waste of money and effort and include the Greens and the Constitutions and the Nazi Party and anybody else that's trying to get on the ballot, now you see how big it really is. It's a huge, doubly huge waste.
Well, and on top of that, the local candidates have it actually much worse than the statewide and the federal candidates, because the one guy who was running, and I'm drawing a blank on names, and I've met all of these people. He was running for state representative for the state house in the Frankfurt, Mokina, New Lenox area. In Jonathan Parker, that's who it was. He was running down there, and the main party candidates only had to get like 500 signatures. They all had to be from his district. He had to get like 6,000 or something like that. It was totally unrealistic.
I did that when I ran. I needed only 500 for the Power Party, and I needed 2,500 real signatures, which we ended up collecting 5,200.
Yeah,
just to make sure that it happened.
And the thing that I think was I think is really interesting is, as you mentioned, people see that people only see it affecting the Libertarian, the Green Party, and all of that, but there are many smaller local third parties here. I remember when I lived in the Kankakee area, there was the Bourbonnais. What was it? The Bourbonnais Citizenship Party or something like that. It was a political party that was formed in Bourbonnais to challenge the two parties that were controlling Bourbonnais' government. And what kind of hoops did they have to jump through? And this is like about 10 years ago or so, but the laws haven't changed or anything. So what's up with that? But so let me let's get back to our guest here. So Scott, so you decided not to do the book challenge. Now, have you been involved in the book challenge in the past?
Yes, indeed. I ran for Congress as a Green in 2008 and went through that ordeal. I'm sure you folks know very well what an ordeal it is. It can literally take days. For a congressional race, not that much time, but statewide, literally days. I think that would be your experience too.
Yeah, this year it took us a week and a half, and then after that, after they couldn't knock all the signatures they wanted out at that point, then it took us like another 2 weeks up here in Chicago. And first of all, I don't know if you've ever been down to the State Board of Elections down in Springfield. I don't know where it was in 2008, but when we were there this time, it was in an old shuttered
shopping center.
Yeah, shopping center. It was in an old grocery store, and I walked in there. I'm like looking for the produce department. I mean, it was quite literally. Yeah, it was quite literally an old grocery store. But I'll tell you what, though, given the way Illinois is run, there were certainly a lot of fruits and nuts in there. But you'll see what I did there. But and then, like I said, it took like 2 weeks, maybe longer, once they moved to Chicago to challenge the petitioners, which is where the bulk of ours got knocked off. I think we retained like 45% of the signatures down in Springfield, and there were some that were really that we lost that were like really goofy. Like I remember I had one where it said that this person lived on such and such street, and the address ended in a 4, but they looked online and they were registered on the same street, and the only difference was that the last number was a 2. And we lost that one. I'm like, the guy's right next door. What are the chances of him being in a different district or something? I mean, I don't know. We lost that one, but had we lost the challenge, that would be one of the ones that we would have.
Well, yeah, somebody moves next door. They move next door. They don't change their voter registration, so that's not their correct address. Yeah, but I live next door.
Yeah,
I can still vote here.
And I remember the one. Yeah, you know what? I've told all of these stories in previous episodes, but there was one guy signed his name, printed it out, and then in the next line, someone with the same last name, they signed their name, printed it out, and then put ditto marks, and the same with the other. And they were all obviously living at the same house. I mean, they're all obviously family. And the guy who was with me at the time to try to knock the signatures off, he's like, wait, what do those little quotation marks mean? What, the only thing I hate about having the audio only on this show after we do the live is people can't see the facial expressions. They should see the one I just did. What's going on? I might have to put that up as a picture for when I upload this.
And I'm sure, Scott, you're making faces just the same when you hear this.
Well, sure. Well, I empathize fully. I mean, it's been so picayune and petty in the past that if somebody signs as Jim and their name is James, that they have thrown those types of people off the ballot. And Main Street or Main Avenue. That's less a case now. That really is too egregious, that one. But that's part of the insidiousness of the process.
Oh yeah, they misspell the name of the city or something. That's it, throwing it out.
Yeah, and it's really mostly all petty stuff. Now we did find that there were some paid petitioners, and that's where we really lost most of our signatures with the paid petitioners. Although we had one paid petitioner was outstanding, and they got like 4,000 signatures or something, if I'm not mistaken. And what happened was that. Of course, that was the one of the petitioners that was being harassed by the armed security guards, or armed private investigators, whatever they were. And, oh, by the way, I went to the Facebook page of the security firm and left them a review. I'm just, throwing that out there. But but yeah, I mean, that's where most of ours got thrown out, was the paid petitioners. And like I said, we're looking, the party's looking at different ways to combat that, because obviously we don't want to lose all these signatures. But so when you had been involved with the book challenge a while back, now were there Republicans helping you guys with the signatures at all?
You mean my congressional race?
Yeah.
Back in 2008? No, not to my knowledge.
There was a report we had Democrats coming down to help us out, and I don't know how true that was, but like I was mentioning earlier with the whole Gianulius Kirk thing, that sort of tactic just does not surprise me. I mean, personally, if I had my way, the city of Chicago, really every metropolitan area that has a population over 1.5 million would be its own state. But that's just me. And then they wouldn't affect the rest of the states. Like we got. Oh God, we get off on a ton of topics on this show, if you haven't noticed already. The thing that really irks me about this state is how the influence of the city of Chicago and how they can redraw the districts and all of that. And I believe there's a challenge on that, and I don't know what the status of that is and all that. But but I think it was Jesse Jackson Jr.'s district. It's south side of Chicago. But it goes all the way down through Grant Park and Momence and all the way down to Watseka.
Yeah.
I mean, a person who has never seen a farm in his life should not be a representative over primarily farmland and rural communities. But what do I know? I'm just an average citizen.
Yeah, I'm 30 miles removed from downtown, and I have Lipinski as a representative, who's just.
How does that happen? How does that happen?
Because the people in charge get to draw the lines, and so now you've got the Bobby Rush district and the Jesse Jackson Jr. district and the Lipinski district, and so on. They're all these like, tiny, skinny little lines that just come out like rays of the sun from Chicago.
There's one district in Illinois where I think it's in the northwest suburbs where it has a whole big area of the city of Chicago, and then the whole district is just the border of the interstate up to an area up in the north, and the whole thing is shaped like a C to another big Democrat area up there. How is there justice being served there? I don't get it, but One other thing about the show is when we have a guest on, sometimes we get off on our little rants and tirades. We forget about our guests. But Scott, what about your opinion on that? Even though it's not really, but I mean, it does affect us all. It is pretty much the same situation, along with the getting on the ballot and all that. It's all about the control and concentration of power. But what do you think on that, Scott?
I'm speaking just personally, not on behalf of the Green Party, but
That's
I think
fine.
we'll be better served to do what Iowa has done. In effect, they have an independent commission and computer-generated maps, and they don't take the politics out of it entirely, perhaps, but they certainly tampen it down.
And personally, I would like if they would just do a grid system. And the thing is that if you roll a law back to its very basic bare bones, you can always amend it or change it at that point. But it's harder to actually roll something back. So I say we roll the whole thing back, do just a straight grid system in the state of Illinois for all of the districts, and then you can fudge the borders from there.
Well,
I mean,
we already have one. The state has over 2,100 townships.
Townships, yes.
And
they're not
in neat little squares.
But that's not always the case, though. Southern Will County, Reed and Custer Townships, they would both be square, but because of where the Kankakee River is, they just decided to use that as the border because it makes no more sense because there's really not many bridges across. But
you already have this grid. It's already there.
Yeah.
Mostly a grid anyway. And
you know what? That would be interesting if they changed the law to keep it to the at what are townships 7 by 7 miles, I believe. To keep it, you can draw the districts however you want, but the borders have to follow the township borders.
Within some tolerance.
Within some tolerance, so that you're not having just a 500-foot wide stretch of asphalt being
because the
part of the district.
the populations in them won't be perfect, so there has to be some kind of tolerance allowed.
Right. But we have a hard enough time getting on the ballot, let alone implementing these ideas.
One step at a time. So, Scott, is this lawsuit gaining any legs?
Well, for the moment, let me give some background on this. We filed the lawsuit asserting that all the barriers taken together are violative of our constitutional rights. And we've discussed some of them, the 25,000 signature requirement, the 90 days to gather petition signatures, the notary requirements on each page, the binder check issues. All these taken together, we felt, and we still do feel, are violative of our constitutional rights under the First and 14th Amendments. Now, we filed a request for a preliminary injunction in the case with Judge Tharp. He's the federal district judge in the Northern District of Illinois who's handling the case. And on Thursday, he denied that request for a preliminary injunction. Now, the case in chief goes on. You mentioned your case filed in 2012 that's been in the courts ever since. We expect to be on a similar track, but we do want to press these issues. We did not succeed necessarily in getting on the ballot, although we do have a couple of options, I think, left open to us. But we are very hopeful that we'll succeed in the end. And that's not just for the new parties in general. It's really for the voters of Illinois. And I'm hopeful in time that we'll get to a point where voters, and I'm speaking without a party affiliation in this respect, I'm speaking more as a concept. I would hope the voters throughout Illinois will be able to select candidates rather than ratify candidates. And I'll elaborate on that a little bit. I mean, so many elections are with just one candidate. I believe that the General Assembly elections here this November, I think roughly half are not contested. That's not democracy.
You're right.
And then
it happens a lot, quite a lot.
And the interesting thing too is that, say that after they're done whatever, and you see that the thing is uncontested, and you decide that you want to run as a write-in. If you think it's hard to get on as a third party, if you're running as a write-in, especially statewide, you're in for a real big world of hurt, because the way I understand it is that you have to file with each local election council and across the state, and then each one of those is a $25 fee. So to get on the ballot as a write-in statewide, you're in it for like several $1,000s, and you're just an individual at that point. You don't even have a Libertarian or a Green Party to back you up with whatever meager funds they have. You're doing that out of your own pocket. And,
well, to me, that's particularly egregious. Again, I'm just speaking for myself. The election code has been tightened up over the years. It used to be you could go in on election day and write in a candidate on your ballot. They changed that a few years back to require a notarized statement to be filed with the election authorities 5 days before the election saying that you were a write-in candidate. But they tightened that even further, and now it's 60 days. So the time is coming right up. If you're a write-in candidate, you've got to file a notarized statement within prior to 60 days before the election.
Right. And then what happens is, if you're trying to get on the ballot and you get the challenge and it goes weeks and back and forth and all that stuff and it takes too long, now the time to be on as a write-in, if you wanted to fall back on that time has already passed and you're out.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, in terms of a statewide candidacy, this is how much it becomes like Alice in Wonderland. If I wanted to run, I'll just make up an example. Say I wanted to be a write-in for Attorney General, statewide office, I would have to file one of these notarized statements 60 days before the election in each and every county in the state, along with 7 or 9 electoral boards that we have. So it's close to 110 jurisdictions. I would have to file the notarized statement in 110 jurisdictions in order to run for statewide office. I personally think that's preposterous. If I want to run for a statewide office, I should be able to file my declaration for a write-in with the State Board of Elections. I hope that gets changed.
Think about it a little bit more than just that, too, though. I mean, as far as from a financial standpoint, $25 fee, there's a lot of money, but then you have to go to all of these places. There's gas money. Then and if it's somewhere, say like you're based out of Chicago, you got to go downstate, you're going to probably have to get a hotel room for several nights and then feed yourself. And what was several $1,000s is you could easily look into the tens of thousands of dollars.
And if you don't have a free notary, you pay for each stamp.
Exactly.
And if you do it as certified mail in lieu of traveling the state, I mean, easily that's $5, if not more, per piece of mail.
Either way, I mean, people the cost is over and above the money, and then on top of that, if you're writing a write-in candidate, most likely you're just some average schmo that has an average job. You're going to have to take time off work because these offices aren't open during the week. And say there's a challenge to one of your things, say like you could, send your mail, your application, registered mail or something, and it gets challenged. You have to take time off of work, and suddenly you're not getting paid or using up your vacation days that you wanted to use, to relax after the whole 9 yards is over. I mean, it's really, really egregious. I've brought this up before. This is something I found interesting. I believe I found it before the show last week or the week before. On Wikipedia, they have a pretty good article about ballot access, and this is interesting. President George H.W. Bush signed the Copenhagen document of the Helsinki Accords. Okay, so this would have been like early 90s, late 80s. And now this is not a treaty. It's just an agreement, so it's not really codified law, but I found this interesting. Section 7.5 of the Copenhagen document reads, to respect the right of citizens to seek political or public office individually or as representatives of political parties or organizations without discrimination. Section 7.6, respect the right of individuals and groups to establish in full freedom their own political parties or other political organizations and provide such political parties and organizations with the necessary legal guarantees to enable them to compete with each other on a basis of equal treatment before the law and by the authorities. And let's see, the U.S. has been criticized by the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe for its harsh ballot access laws in the past. In 1996, the U.S. delegates responded to the criticism by saying unfair ballot access could be remedied through the existing appeal and regulatory structures and did not represent a breach of the Copenhagen documents. Oh, excuse me just a second. Bullshit! Oh, gosh, sorry about that. Oh, man.
Remember where that is so you can edit that later.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, I'll have to bleep that out because of our man, I'm sorry, Steve, I totally slipped there. But I don't know if you ever heard about that before, Scott, but what do you think on that?
Well, there are a lot of international conventions that really don't seem to get on our national radar, and I guess we just add that one to the list.
And as you're well aware, the Libertarian Party isn't too much for, I don't know, well, maybe not so much the party, but we have a lot of individuals in the party that are not really, I don't know, chomping at the bit to sign international treaties or anything like that. But this is one that is really a basic human right, you know, to be able. I mean, and really, it follows. I would say it falls under the Constitution, the Constitution's guarantee of the freedom to assemble, and you know, that's through the ballot access laws here in Illinois. That's not a good system. Honestly, I'm of the opinion that once again, I'm not much for federalizing things, but the Libertarian Party does believe, well, I don't know so much about the parties as much as I believe that one of the legitimate uses of government, as I said previously, is to protect the rights and freedoms of the people in the country. And with that having been said, I think a national ballot access standard is a good thing.
Well, that's part of what I guess we devolved into with the Constitution in 1789 when it was adopted. That was part of the deal. We were going to have a federal government and 13 states at the time, and that was going to be the power-sharing arrangement. I mean, that's certainly not anything the founders anticipated, what we have today, but that was the agreement all those years ago, and we're still bound by it.
Yeah, and it's, and there is a lot of founding father worship out there, and I people always like, well, George Washington, great American, yet he has also been accused of being the first, national political figure to be in a embezzling scandal. The quote unquote evidence says that he embezzled $20,000, which back in those days was like several $100,000 is today, possibly a couple of million, but I don't know one way or the other if that's 100% true, but let's be honest, they're all human, they all make their mistakes and all that, so I don't get the worship, but a lot of the stuff they say is still true. Like, I mean, they were constantly warning us against political parties, and I believe that was one of George Washington's big things. If Mike Bowler is listening or in on the Q&A right now, maybe he could post something about that real quick. But yeah, they've been warning us about it, and look, and they were 100% right.
Well, I think they were worried more about too many political parties, if my memory serves. That's part of why we have the Electoral College, that wonderful arcane institution. That was set up to basically try to coordinate a rational election in the face of what was anticipated to be numerous parties. I may be mistaken in that, but I think that's the case.
Well, because it's not a democracy, it's a representative republic. The Electoral College is there to function as a buffer between centers of population and the voting for the president. You don't vote for a president, you vote for electors. They in turn vote for a president. So
that's right.
The city of Chicago and Los Angeles and New York and Dallas, they don't get to choose who the president is. We all get to participate. That's why it's there. And now we have 48 states that have a winner-take-all policy, and the whole thing is broken, and people want to throw it all away.
Yeah, and it goes also really also goes back to I would say this all pretty much started when they stopped making it to where the senators were appointed by state governments. Okay, Mike said he missed the question. Mike, what's it was something about the founding fathers. Mike, did they? My question is: the founding fathers, when they were talking about political parties, were they warning against too many, too few, centralization of power? What's your take on that? and I'll just watch the Q&A for your answer there. Gosh, I got to do something about my memory. I think my ADD pills are making it a little worse. That and possibly the caffeine. But the okay, where was I? You walked away for a second, Eric. I think to take care of the cat.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Hey everybody, how's it going?
Well, where were you going? Maybe I can help you fill in the blanks.
Yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember. But let me see. We were talking about the system.
We perhaps talk about some improvements to the electoral system.
Yeah, let's do that.
Interested in some of that.
Yeah, let's do that. That's a good idea.
That I think can be done, and are starting to be done. You're absolutely right about the winner take all.
Yeah, eliminate that, and it becomes.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that was eliminate that, and it becomes very much what it used to be.
I remember. That's what I was saying. I think all of this started back when the becoming a senator was taken away from the state legislatures and put directly to a popular vote, which they were never supposed to be a popular vote, and because of that, now you got the system where you got one big city in the state, you got basically one philosophy controlling the Senate. Now, we've mentioned in the past on the show that some people, well, here in Illinois, you got a Republican and a Democrat, but those words don't mean anything. Mark Kirk isn't really that conservative. He's very liberal on quite a few things, and I recall back in the day when George Ryan was running against Glenn Poshard the Democrat, Ryan the Republican, the Democrat was more conservative.
Yeah. Well, and then, what Scott was talking about earlier about, the conglomeration that has become American politics. The people that own the country, right? I mean, the Citibank, the Bank of America, these people own the country. They own the candidates, they own the elections, they own the media network, they own the country. And so, yeah, just because they have an RRD after the name, that really doesn't carry a lot of weight in some states more than others. But yeah, and the whole idea behind the legislature, choosing your senators was that the state itself had representation at the federal government level. Your congressperson's supposed to represent you, the people. Your senator represents the state you live in, and we have 50 of them, so they should have some representation. We didn't have 50 back then, but they changed it so now the state itself essentially has nothing. The state can't say anything back to the federal government.
One thing we mention on the show frequently is one of the differences between the Democrats and the Republicans is the Democrats hide their love of corporations better. Okay. Mike Buller is trying to remember if the Federalist Papers debated the issue of political parties. So we'll just keep monitoring the Q&A. Once again, anybody who's watching or on YouTube or on Google Plus or Hangouts or what have you, we have the Q&A open. You got any questions, whatever, just throw them right out there. And I actually closed out the Radio Fubar chat room because I thought that's where the sound problem we had earlier was coming from. Come to find out, I'm absent-minded, but I think I've known that. Not sure. At any rate, wow, see what I did there. Okay, so what's going on with the Green Party now, seeing as you basically lost your spot on the ballot?
Well, there's one last gasp that we're going to be considering over the weekend, and that's taking the Board of Elections decision into the Circuit Court under the provisions for administrative review. We've got 5 days from yesterday to decide that, and I expect over the weekend there'll be some discussion of that. Whether we go that route remains to be seen. As I indicated before, with the federal lawsuit, although our request for a preliminary injunction was denied, the case in chief continues, and I'm looking forward to that process, as long as it may take. That I think we'll get a very desirable result in the end. I'm hopeful, anyway.
Yeah, I think the problem that you might run in with that is that given the whole fair and speedy trial provision of the Constitution, speedy being having a different definition in the current political climate than it did back in the day. So you know whatever happens, the establishment parties are going to just stretch things out. That's what they do.
Well, that gets to all the rules and procedures of court to a certain extent, which nobody's fault in particular. But once again, in aggregate, yeah, things can go pretty slowly, and that's not necessarily anybody's fault.
In some cases, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but when it's something that's urgent or really has to deal with the rights of the people. That really does hurt. I mean, like I said, the Libertarian Party lawsuit has been stagnant for like 2-3 years.
Well, I have no particular knowledge of your lawsuit. That does happen in general. Sometimes there are very good reasons for that, and sometimes maybe people are just not advancing their cases as quickly as they should. But for whatever reason, yeah, things do take time.
Okay, Mike Buller is chiming in here. Federalist Paper number 10 continues the discussion of the question broached in Hamilton's Federalist number 9. Hamilton there addressed the destructive role of a faction in breaking apart the Republic. The question Madison answers then is how to eliminate the and then Q&A cuts off. So I'm sure I'll be getting an update on that. Okay. So you've got this one last avenue that you guys are pursuing.
Or not, we may not.
Okay, well, but let me rephrase that you're considering. So what happens then? Gearing up for the next cycle, I guess, correct?
Indeed. We'll be having our fall meeting in Chicago next month and making plans for the next election cycle. And indeed for the forthcoming consolidated elections next spring. We're hoping that we can field several candidates statewide for local offices. That is the building block, as I think we all know. If we as Greens, you as as Libertarians, the Constitution Party. Yeah, sorry, my tongue's going there too fast. If we all are able to place people on school boards, park districts, municipal governments, then on that basis, that's the better way to build up a party. You have building blocks, and then people can advance from their local offices, perhaps into the state legislature and so on.
Yeah, highway
that's a far better way, I think, to go about party building.
Yeah, you definitely got to get your foot in the door. But as we had mentioned earlier, though, with the getting on the ballot as a third party at that point is a lot more difficult, than it is on even the state level. Okay, continuing with Mike Buller here. Let's see. The question Madison answers then is how to eliminate the negative effects of a faction. He defines a faction as a number of citizens, whether amounting to a minority or majority of the whole, who are united and actuated by some common impulse of passion or of interest. I'm going to wait until he gets these all up. Or of interest, or you know what? Here we go. Wikipedia.org/wiki/federalist_no._10. So just go to Wikipedia and search for Federalist Paper number 10, and that's where he's saying that you can find out more information about that. And I will definitely take a look at that later if I remember. But yeah, as I'm saying though, that's definitely the way to do it. It is a little bit, well, the way it is, if you don't have any previous political experience, it is definitely harder to get harder to get elected on a statewide ballot, but to get on a local ballot, given the laws the way they are, it's even harder. Although I believe on a local ballot, the parties don't have to run a full slate, which the whole full slate thing is just another thing. I think the one of the biggest things. There's the having to get the 5%, so you don't have to go through the process the next time around. I don't think that's in the election, so you don't have to go through the process next time around. I don't think is one of the bigger issues, but it's the signatures and really I think more so the lateness of the time when the third parties get into it, because the establishment parties are done in either December or the beginning of January. And so then they're on the ballot. Nobody's going to challenge them. And then they got all year to campaign. And we're March through June, through the beginning of June. And then the challenges start up. We handed our petitions in on time, in June with like a couple days to spare. And here it is, August. And we just found out yesterday we're going to be on the ballot. I mean, and so now, all of our resources, well, maybe not all of them, but a good chunk of resources are spent fighting the challenges, and B, we don't have time. We don't have as much time to get our names out there, even if we did have the money. And I think one thing we'll probably disagree on is campaign finance reform. But the way I understand it, it only says that corporations or individuals or whatever can donate X amount of dollars to a campaign. When you have a smaller political party, that's hurting you. It doesn't hurt the Democrats or the Republicans. It hurts the smaller political parties because we just have so few resources. I mean, say like the Libertarians want to get donations from celebrities. Okay, we've got Kurt Russell, we've got Drew Carey. Even though he was at the Republican convention, Clint Eastwood is supposedly libertarian. We've got I don't know. That's all I can really think of off the top of my head right now. And but. And they can only donate like what, $2,600? The Democrats, you can go to Steven Spielberg, you can go to David Geffen, you can go to Harrison Ford, Richard Dreyfuss, although I think Richard Dreyfuss might be a closet libertarian. You can go to any hundreds of thousands of rich famous people, whereas we've only got like 2 or 3, and that ties our hands pretty much.
Well, of course, campaign finance is going way in the wrong direction. I'm sure we'll all agree since Citizens United. If anything, money is coming in at warp speed and further distorting our electoral process. I personally find that very sad.
Well, I think that's actually one place we're going to disagree on. I'm of the opinion that groups of people should be able to donate whatever, and whether it be a labor union or a company or whatever, maybe not necessarily. Well, I don't know. I mean, I've thought about the issue, but I'm still kind of like working my way through it because I see both sides of the argument. I'm tending to lean more toward the side of being able, groups of people being able to donate to whatever they want, but because once again, I think that law mainly hurts the third party and the small guy in the long run because it really puts a limit. Let me rephrase. Not the Supreme Court decision which overturned it, but the original law which basically said that corporations can't donate. I think that hurts a lot of the third parties. But then again, you look at it this way. We're not, even though the Koch Foundation is supposedly libertarian, we don't get a whole ton of money from them. We don't, we're not getting. Major corporations don't sponsor the Libertarian Party, despite the fact everybody says that. If the Libertarians got their way, corporations would run rampant. I can't figure that out. I think it's because in our own way, we're anti-corporation. We just see the fact that the government is that corporations are using government law, government force, whatever, to achieve their goals. And I throw up as an example the whole case of Kelo versus New London, where the city of New London, Connecticut, condemned an entire neighborhood so that Eli Lilly could build a pharmaceutical factory. And, of course, Kelo, I can't remember the lady's first name, refused to move even though her house was condemned. She eventually lost the lawsuit, and I find it interesting that all the Democrats on the Supreme Court voted for the city of New London, whereas there was 1 or 2 conservatives that voted with the Democrats, thus making a majority, but everybody that was opposed to it were conservatives, if you follow what I'm saying there. But eventually what happened was it took so long, Eli Lilly was no longer interested, and so now New London, Connecticut has this gigantic neighborhood that's just been bulldozed. It wasn't a great neighborhood, but it was a decent neighborhood, and people, just another issue of people using corporate or corporations using the government to get their will. And
of course, that can be a whole other set of issues. I don't think we're going to trend in that area, but
no,
so they have
eminent domain is one of my big bugaboos, even though I've not been personally affected by it. But that's a topic for another time, and I would actually not mind having you back on to discuss some of these issues, because so far it's been a good time, even though we've still got like about 15 minutes. But Mike Bowler's commenting, Rauner exploited a loophole by donating his own money. By donating his own money, raises the corporate rate. Okay. Rauner exploited a loophole by donating his own money, thus raising the corporate rate. I think is what that's saying there. But I don't know if I said it on this episode, but we got an issue where one guy is on some sort of the Democrat candidate has got a scandal going on about corporate hiring, and he also basically put Illinois', I won't say he put Illinois' economy in the toilet, but he poured gasoline on a bonfire. And then you got the other guy who's sending out armed private investigators to intimidate people. I mean, who are you going to vote for? I mean, I don't. Vote for the lesser of two evils. You're still voting for evil, and I refuse to vote evil. And I will tell you this: after what happened, next election cycle, if the Libertarians are not on the ballot, but the Green Party is, even though I disagree with a lot of the Green Party, I'm voting for the Green Party just to give the finger to the establishment.
Well, that's fine. We should have multiple parties on the ballot that would reverse this whole premise that we're voting for the lesser of two evils. It's just it's preposterous that we've devolved to that kind of a feeling. We should be voting for good, not for evil.
I agree. Those arguments that if you have more than two, it's just too complicated for the voters. Well, anyone throwing that out there, I mean, that's a big middle finger to the voter. What you're saying is the American populace is too stupid to choose between A, B, or C.
Oh no! Are we going to go to Wendy's or Burger King or McDonald's or Arby's today for dinner?
That's too confusing.
Oh, but of course,
we have to close the Arby's because that's too many choices.
Let me raise an example or two here in terms of how other democracies function, and I'd like to refer to the Canadians and the United Kingdom, both of which have two principal parties in their respective parliaments, but both of which also have two minor parties in their respective parliaments. And as a distant observer, it appears to me that the minor parties, I don't mean to be disparaging by calling them minor, they're important, but the minor parties keep the major parties on their toes and indeed make for a much more effective political dialogue. I dare say that having a party or two here in the U.S. on the ballot will not bring the Republic to its knees.
And I think one of, we can talk theory and all of this until we're blue in the face, but until we can actually get on the ballots and actually change things, it's going to be a hard issue. I kind of like the whole proportional voting system that ostensibly gives the third parties a better chance. And I'm going to try to find it, link to an episode of the podcast Skeptoid where they were actually talking about studies that were done on different voting systems, and they found, surprisingly, the one that was the most fair, and I can't remember what university did this study, but each party got a number of vote. Let me think about it. Let me think how to describe it. Okay, they got one ballot, one for each vote, or each 10 or 100 votes that each political party got. They've got an entry toward the seat or whatever that they were going for. And then all of these entries for all of the parties involved get put into a hat. and then a ballot is drawn at random out of all of the entries that are put into the hat, and then whoever gets drawn is the person that wins. Now, yes, the thing is that the major parties still have their majorities. They still got the bulk of the ballots, the bulk of the entries. They have a better chance of winning, but the fact that the final stage is random is actually a fairer shot toward for the third parties, which I'm not 100% convinced. I have to really read the study myself to find out about this, but
I'm not sure I'd go for something like that, but it is an interesting thought.
it's an interesting concept. Like I said, I would really have to read the study. I like the proportional where you vote what you want, first place, second place, third place, instead of yes or no.
Exactly. I think that's a process called instant runoff voting. And
yes.
Hearing of that. For your listeners, let me make an example of your circumstance.
Sure.
We're going to have three different candidates for governor on the ballot: Chad Grimm and Pat Quinn and Bruce Rauner. With instant runoff voting, you would rank those choices. So I would imagine most of your listeners, and rightly so, would want to be putting Chad Grimm first, Quinn or Rauner second or third, as you might see fit. Again, this is just a hypothetical. But indeed, say, and I don't wish for this, but Chad Grimm does not come out with a majority or plurality among the three, then Mr. Grimm is disqualified, and then the results are recomputed. But your vote is not lost. If you had put, say, Bruce Rauner second and Pat Quinn third, then your vote would move up to put, say, whatever I said, Rauner first, and then all the results would be recalculated. And in the end, we would have victors with at least 50%.
And I think, and that's exactly what you're saying there, and that's why I like that system. Because if you think of it this way, if you're a Republican in Illinois, I highly doubt that you would put Pat Quinn second on the ballot. If you're on the other party, I highly doubt you would put Rauner, as your second choice, because you don't want them to have a chance to win. I mean, it's a two-way street too, though, because you would go into a runoff, and you'd have to run against whoever came in the second. But the system is that system is indeed more fair to the third parties, I would think.
Well, it's a system with which people are familiar. If you think about it, when you vote on the TV celebrity shows or for all-star baseball games, you rank your candidates. If you wanted to rank second baseman, you'd say Steve and Sam and Tommy 1, 2, 3, and you'd vote that.
Well, I mean, going back to what I was talking about earlier, jokingly about I keep forgetting to switch the video over to Eric when he talks. Man, I'm gonna have to remember a lot of this stuff. But going back to what I was saying earlier, jokingly about, should we go to Wendy's or McDonald's? Well, Wendy's has got a bigger cheeseburger, but McDonald's has $1 large iced teas, which I am sadly spending a lot of money on lately because their iced tea is good. Yeah, I guess McDonald's will be my first choice. I mean, you rank stuff like that every day in your life. It's all cost-benefit analysis.
Well, that's right, and then you don't lose necessarily your second or your third choice. You're not just casting a single vote and hoping for the best. Your second choices move up. Your third choices move up if your first choice drops off.
Yes, yeah. So we got about my laptop says 10:20, which I know is correct. Or my desktop. My laptop says it's 3:20 p.m.
Wrong time zone.
Yeah, and I've changed I've checked it out. The BIOS is actually holding the time correctly. I'll have to check it again. Yes, heck with you. But we got about 10 minutes left. So, is there anything else you'd like to add? Any sort of topic you wanna discuss? Floor is yours. Just have at it. Eric says we've got 8 minutes and 40 seconds now.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That's atomic time too, baby.
Yeah. As Douglas Adams wrote in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, humans are so primitive we still think digital watches are a pretty neat idea.
That's good.
So Scott, anything else you'd like to add? You'd like to bring up? Anything you want to talk about?
Well, I know we all would want to have better ballot access. I'm hopeful that in the coming years, it'll probably take years, that we'll collectively as a state get to that, be it through changes to the election law or instant runoff voting like we just discussed, any number of changes, redistricting processes are in dire need of change. Mm-hmm. So I think we have common cause in that respect, in all those respects. I'm hopeful that a lot more people who are not Democrats and Republicans see fit to run for local office, and that would include your listeners and my party as well. The opportunity is right now. It's ridiculous as it is, it's possible now to be circulating petitions for the April consolidated election even before we have the November election. So now is the time. The 90-day window is open now for the consolidated elections, and the extent that these are largely nonpartisan offices, by the way, but to the extent that anybody with a political inclination who wants to get involved, be of help to their community, I would urge that on everyone to consider running for those local offices, the school boards, the town governments, the townships, any number of those entry-level positions. On that basis, it's maybe a microcosm, but you make your ideas heard and you bring your policy to bear, even if it's just as far away as across the street. So I would encourage everybody who has the inclination to be running for these municipal and special district offices in the spring.
Yeah, that's that argument, if you don't vote, you can't complain. Yeah, well, I ran for office. Try that.
And actually, George Carlin actually brought up the argument that if you do vote, you don't have a right to complain. And I actually had somebody actually amend that, and I actually like this better than what George Carlin said. If you're a taxpayer, regardless of whether you voted or not, you have a right to complain. I think that's more true. If you have money in the system, I mean, you have every right to complain about how it's getting used. And if your choices are being kept off the ballot and you just decide to not vote because of that, you have more of a right to complain than the people that do vote. Wow. I make that argument.
Even that, look, if I have to abide by the laws that someone else made, I have a right to complain because, my only two options, and in some cases, as Scott was talking about earlier, one option, they don't want to change that law that I have to abide by. So therefore, I have nobody to vote for. How do I not have a right to complain? It's absurd.
Exactly. And so Scott, for you personally, since for all intents and purposes, it looks like your campaign is over. What's next for you personally?
Well, I'm thinking of running for municipal office here in the spring. I'm not quite ready to announce that yet, but that's my predilection.
I've thought about running for office, but I've just got way too many skeletons in the closet and personal issues, and that compounded with the fact that I would not be running as a main party, kind of keeping me from doing it. But you don't have to run for office to help change the system. Podcasts like this will do it. Getting out and talking. Getting out and talking to people will do it. Donating a few dollars or some time to your preferred cause.
Help petition.
Help petition. Help defend the signatures. Help, whatever. I mean, there's always help anybody can do.
Agreed, entirely.
And I think what we're going to do is we've only got a couple of minutes here. I'm going to start closing it out. And once again, to all of our listeners, you can contact us at 815-200-4912. That is our Google Voice line. You can call us up, leave a message, and we will either play it on the air or we will read the message you left, because I believe Google Voice actually leaves you a transcript. We haven't had too many calls to the line yet. So let's light those phone numbers up, Call now. We have a representative waiting to take your prayer, and if you give us a love offering, I'm looking to start a TV show on Sunday. Okay, you can tweet us at the Side Project 2. That's our Twitter, obviously, because I said tweet us. Our email is thesideproject2@gmail.com, and talk about the show on your Facebook Wow, that's the first time I did that this episode. I almost made it. So if you talk about us on your Facebook page, use the hashtag TSPLive. And I did neglect to mention we are starting a midweek show. It's pretty much just going to be reruns of our old shows going back from our first one all the way back in 2010. But if there are some special things that are just on our mind and we record, we will just put that up. It's not live, and then it'll only be on TSPLive and Stitcher, where you'll be able to find it. Well, iTunes. But, okay, you'll find it most of the places. But, so we're going to have that going on, and I've got something planned for September, which I believe is National Mental Health Awareness Month. If you want to go back to our archives, tsplive.com. If you want to listen to us live, radiofubar.com every Saturday, 9 a.m. Central. If you circle us on Google+, you can get the live video show there, or go to YouTube and friend the Side Project, and you can watch the video stream there too. I don't really promote the YouTube one because YouTube, Google+, kind of the same thing. But after the show is over, you can watch us live on YouTube when we record, and when the show is over, about an hour and a half, 2 hours afterwards, the video actually goes up, so you can actually watch the video archive. Friend us on Facebook. Let me see, I already talked about YouTube. You can hear the replay of the show tomorrow. That's every Sunday on Touhyville at TOUHYVILLE.com. That's Sundays at noon. And we're on Stitcher on your smartphone. Tune in on your smartphone, tablet, or Roku box. Just search for Radio Fubar. And we are also in the iTunes store. Look for the Side Project. Side Project Live. Our old show, Side Project Freecast, is up there also. But search for Side Project Live and leave us reviews, and that boosts our chances of people finding the show. And we're nothing if not, well, I gotta watch my language here. We're nothing if not self-promoters. There we go. I cleaned that up. So there you go. And once again, thank you, Scott. I remember when we were talking originally, you were worried that we weren't going to have enough to talk about this issue, but we had plenty.
Oh, indeed, indeed. It's been a pleasure, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very, very welcome, and thanks again to Eric. I'd like to give a quick shout-out to a listener, viewer, Bangs Naughty Bits, who helped me out in a time of need with a hardware issue, and I'd also like to thank the Libertarian Party of DuPage County, who next month are going to be coming on the show in a special capacity. And Scott, just bring up to the party about the Libertarian Party lawsuit, and we would love to have you guys in on it, because as we mentioned before, it affects us all, and the more support we can get, the better.
Okay, well, we do have common cause in any number of areas, and we should capitalize on those opportunities.
And until the system is fixed, if libertarians aren't on the ballot, I'm voting for the Green Party. So even though I don't agree with them, they'll definitely make changes, and it won't be the same, and we might get this whole situation with ballot access fixed. So
here's hoping.
Once again, from the second floor of the Side Project Tower in Morris, Illinois, this is Jim Goebel.
And from the basement studio in Lockport, Illinois, Eric Ferguson.
And we will see you all again next week, where we will have Lupe Diaz on to talk about the Illinois Libertarian Party Convention, and Ben Coyle, who is the running for Attorney General on the Libertarian Party, who helped to defend us in against the state election board these last 2 weeks, will be with us as well. So we'll talk to you all then.